Welcome to MS's Chronic. I'm your host Barney Black, and this is the sixth and final episode of Season 1 with our guest Kris Mackie. I met Kris about 2 months ago at the Perth and Kinross Multiple Sclerosis Support Group at one of the evening coffee sessions that they have on a regular basis. And Kris has only been on his multiple sclerosis journey for not even a full year yet. You're going to hear how last year he started to experience symptoms, which many of you with multiple sclerosis will be familiar with, and how that has impacted him personally and also motivated him to take on challenges like climbing Monroe Hills. And also, I think it's just a nice way to wrap up the season when you will have heard people with the condition as many as 30 years, and now it's come to the conclusion in this particular season with Kris, who is less than a year into his journey, which is probably the reason that I started this series of episodes, this series of podcasts in the first place. That it's constant, it continues to impact people, and if people can share their own stories, their own experiences, perhaps in its own small way, these episodes will help them on their journey. Sit back and enjoy Season 1, Episode 6 with Kris Mackie. Hi, Kris Mackie. Thanks very much for joining MS's Chronic, which is the name of the podcast, because it's chronic and it's a chronic disease.
Yep, makes sense.
This is a block of 6 people sharing their life now living with MS.
Mm-hmm.
And a bit of the music off it. A bit of jazz in the background, a bit of reggae. Put that off, Barney. There you go. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
It was actually quite nice, wasn't it? Welcome, Kris Mackie.
Thank you for having me.
To MS's Chronic.
Here we are.
This will be the finale of Season 1.
There we go.
So no pressure.
Save the best for last.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
We met via the MS group meeting just 2-3 weeks ago, really, wasn't it? And we got chatting. I heard a little bit about your personal challenges taking on the Monroe hikes, so we'll talk about them.
Yep.
And you kindly put yourself forward for sharing your story.
Yeah, as I said to you that night, it's anything that can help someone else is for me a bonus.
Yeah.
I struggled finding out info when I first got diagnosed, and there's too much black and white, and with MS it's grey for everybody.
It's very nuanced, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's too much, even with your health professional sides, it's here's a leaflet, here's a pamphlet, and again it's black and white. It's not, oh, by the way, this is how it's going to work, or this is how. And for me, I struggled learning that, and I mean, I still am struggling to a degree learning that. Yeah. But if it helps someone a year down the line that goes, oh, hang on, I've got the same symptoms, I've got, boom, it's done what I hope it would do, you know. It's.
We'll talk about support network and what you've looked at, the sources you've looked at, used, discarded. What I've learned over the piece and speaking to other people as well is, and one of the things that was, I think it was Dean Riley said to me about the impact my MS, so I guess the impact of your MS, has on your family and friends, those that are closest to you, and particularly family, your other halves, any kids that are old enough to understand. And that set me back a little bit, because I don't think I'd given that as much thought as I should or could have.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking more about myself. I possibly didn't realise or didn't give it the attention to even know how much it impacted on others.
I think for myself, I was actually the other way around.
Okay.
I panicked about how the wife was going to see it, and because I'm always I go do this, I go do that, and I was like, oh my God, it's going to be a lot harder, especially because we've got only a 2.5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I'm thinking, oh, she's not old enough to understand. However, there's days where she's at that age of she wants cuddle, she wants lifted, and I can't lift her.
You can't lift her.
And that put sheer panic in me of what am I going to do when it's daddy-daughter day and there's no one about.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Risks, yeah. Well, before we go into that, because that's once you know what's causing the issues that you experience to lead you to go to the doctor. Let's go right back to when you first started to get symptoms or experiences that ended up thinking I should go get this checked out.
So you're talking the end of May last year, doing normal things, got up one morning and went, my hand's off numb when I'm washing my hands. Nothing, didn't think anything of it. It was one of these, I've maybe been lying on it in my sleep. When I got up to wash my face, I've washed my hand and went, something's not right. It'll pass, it's fine. Then that afternoon, I happened to go for the toilet, went to wash my hands and went, that's still not right. There's no tingling down the fingers and stuff. Strange. It'll be nothing. Again, I'll sleep on it. If it's bothering me tomorrow, I'll go maybe get it looked at. Tomorrow morning came and I woke up and my right foot had gone completely numb.
Oh, wow, okay. So you've gone from a numbness and tingling in your hands, kind of like the pins and needles when you wake up. But the next day, your foot...
Yeah, I literally went to slide out the side of the bed and my foot just didn't feel like it was there. I'm looking at doing in my head, it was like the Kill Bill movie, where she goes, wiggle your big toe. I was looking at my foot going, move, and it just didn't happen. And I was like, okay, have I slept funny? Have I, crushed it under? Yeah. So as soon as that happened, I went, well, hang on, touched my hand, and I'm going, oh, I can feel that, that's fine. Limped through to the bathroom.
So the hand that was numb is now kind of back to normal.
It was acting normal for that brief minute. Literally walked through, or limped through to the bathroom, did the business, went to wash my hands, and went, it's numb. So it was literally for a brief second, I'd had the feeling back. For that brief second, I had the feeling back. And then, when I went to wash my hands again, I was like, I can't feel the water in this hand, but it was scalding in this one. And I was like, that's not good. I thought, it's got to be something I've slept. I'll make a phone call appointment with the doctor and get ready for work. So hopping about, got sorted, gets into work, doctor's appointment. Yeah, we'll do a phone call appointment with you later.
Okay.
Goes, right, okay, no bother.
So this is last year, and it's probably useful for anybody listening. The whole GP appointment, getting an appointment has changed massively in the last 3 or 4 years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's because if they can avoid a face-to-face, a phone call will be the first, which in this situation doesn't seem quite suitable. No. But anyway, carry on.
No, the other thing is I had the same doctor from when I was born up until I was about 25, and I only saw him twice. Right, and it was due to I had a hernia and a back operation. Okay. So the only time I ever went to the doctor was major
significant
stuff. It wasn't a cold or a cough or something big. And when I called up for this one, they were like, you've got a new GP. I was like, yeah, that's fine. I know the woman that I was dealing with had finished off with my back stuff, so I knew her. And they were like, yeah, she's not in today, but we'll get a phone call with a trainee GP. All right, okay, whatever. It's just something's going on funny. If I need to come in, I'll come in. But doing work, going around, some workmates are, you're awfully heavy-footed. And I was like, yeah, it's numb, it's weird. I've got a doctor's appointment. We'll find out what's going on. So by lunchtime, I'd got a phone call. And this trainee doctor's, you've obviously just been overdoing it. It's a bit of stress or something. Take some ibuprofen, paracetamol when you go to bed tonight. See how you feel tomorrow. If it's still bad, give us a phone back and we'll see if we can get you an appointment with your regular GP. Right, okay. So that's what I've done. Wakes up the next morning and the whole front of my shin is now numb, including my foot and my hand. And I'm like, this is getting slowly worse.
So let me ask you if you can remember. There's a consciousness, okay, that's worse. It's not got any better. But what are you thinking? Can you remember what you're thinking? Are you just thinking, I need to get checked, I need to face-to-face? What is going through your head?
Yeah, so I was at that point, it's more what's happened. Is it something I'm doing, I'm not eating, or I'm allergic to something and my body's reacting? Is it a funny sleep state? We were actually changing mattress at the time because our mattress had actually collapsed. So it was one of those, have I slept in this stupid mattress and not got rid of it in time and it's caused back pain somewhere that's now triggering my leg? And
that makes sense. My wife's bought us new cushions and I fucking hate them.
but I always slept on my right hand as well, which is the one that went numb. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh, it's maybe I've slept on this hand and that leg's thingy because I've been in the divot of the bed.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, I didn't take it fully seriously as I probably should have. I took it as I've just slept funny or I've twinged a nerve somewhere. And it's because of my sports background as well. I did my sports degree and things. I know a bit of physio and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, right, okay, I can deal with it myself to a degree. So when I got up the next morning and it progressed, I phoned back and I got the same trainee doctor who went from on a phone call and he goes, from what we understand then, yeah, you'll need to go see physio.
Okay.
And that was...
And that's just a phone call. Twice both been phone calls.
Yeah, you're talking 10 minutes max. Not very long conversations. They obviously talked a bit about my background, which I've got other medical issues to a degree, like I've got diabetic all my life, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So it's that sort of thing came in, but it was very quickly, oh no, it can't be that. Because there'd be other signs or symptoms or whatever. Funnily enough, I know quite a lot of physios personally through doing my degree and stuff, so I was chatting to them and they were like, well, try this, try that. And he goes, but we don't think it's what
physical.
Yeah,
because in the normal trapped nerve or a tweaked or a pull or
They were like, you're going to have to go see the doctor. We don't think it's going to be a thing. And I goes, well, they've told me to wait the week, try it out. I got another 24 hours, and panic started to ensue.
Okay,
is
that because symptoms got worse, or you just began to worry?
So the third morning, I got up and basically collapsed. My whole right leg just went,
gave way,
and it wasn't like I've got a bit of feeling or I can look at my foot and realise it's planted. There was just nothing there. You could have covered that so I couldn't see it. I wouldn't know my leg was even attached to me. And that's...
Wow.
That's
rapid. Was that in the space of 72 hours?
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I ran for Scotland. I was a sprinter for years. From the age of 8 all the way up till I was 25, I used to sprint, doing competitions every other week. And when I stopped competing, I still went for a run every other day. So that, when it came to the foot initially, that was one of the things. I'd been for a run a couple of days before, and I thought, oh, I've maybe twinged something while doing the sporting activity, and it's because I was a sprinter, my heels.
Aren't we bizarre? Because we try and rationalise the unknown.
Yeah. Straight away.
Give it some sort of logic.
Yeah, and what makes it worse, I feel as well, especially when I was looking at all the MS stuff as well, is you go straight to wanting to name it. It must have a name. Yeah. Whatever it is has to... Yeah, whatever's wrong with me must have a name to a symptom. Yeah. Instead of, well, all these symptoms could actually mean this thing, that thing.
Well, there's over 20 odd different symptoms associated with MS.
Yeah.
26 or something. I can't remember. Probably more, actually.
Yeah. But you automatically want one, and I don't know why it goes... The brain always goes, or my brain always goes, there must be one specific answer. Yeah. And yeah, with this, there wasn't.
So you're 72 hours in.
So 72
You've
hours
now got a leg which is not working.
Yeah.
You've got pins and needles and lack of sensation.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next?
So that was it. Phoned the doctor. They straight away, yeah, we're signing you off and get in here. Right, okay. Finally got my doctor, who turned around and went, oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Mackie. Long time no see. It's obviously something serious. She goes, because you're not ever on my list unless it is. And she goes, so what's going on? She goes, but you're walking with a limp. I was like, well, if it wasn't for your walls, I wouldn't make it into your room. And she was like, what? I was like, I can't feel anything on the right side at all. I'm watching the floor rather than watching where you'd be walking. And she was like, right, okay, out with the pretend hammer. I don't know what you'd call it.
You know, the bit for the test your reflex.
Yes.
Reflex hammer, I think. We'll call it that.
So, yeah, she's doing both on both sides, because obviously my left side seemed fine. She was like, yeah, they're all thinking. My right side's reacting. And she goes, it's reacting though. She goes, okay, we'll get the wee needle out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally, she's tapping me and she goes, look away and tell me when you feel it. And I went, yeah, okay, I can feel the first one on the tip of my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I couldn't feel it at all.
Yeah.
And she went, yeah, we need bloods. And she goes, I don't want to tell you what I think it is or anything like that at the moment. Now, I've got quite a good rapport with her and went, like, brutally honest here. Could it be bad? She goes, I'm leaning more towards it could be bad. She goes, but I don't want to say narrow it too far.
Well, that's pretty.
And I went,
how did you feel about that? Because that's kind of just hanging you out a little bit.
yeah, well, at that point, I was like, bad as in life-changing? She goes, I don't want to say. She goes, it could be something as small as a nerve damage or a trapped nerve, where she goes, we can do stuff to fix that. She goes, or it could be
life-changing.
And I goes, for me, I would rather have heard that than being told, we'll wait for bloods and we'll wait for... I had it in my head, right, okay, the reason I'm signed off is because this is more serious than just me sleeping funny.
Okay.
Which meant for telling work and all that, look, I'm signed off for a reason, rather than I've signed off and I've slept funny. And again, in my head, it was rationalising of why I couldn't work.
It validates what you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's not just something which, like you said, it's not just an inconvenient sensation.
Definitely.
Okay.
So that would be the Friday. I was then to go for bloods by the Tuesday, and was told basically phone 111 if there was any rapid changes. Literally, the Saturday came and I had a rapid change. My left from the shin down went numb as well. Okay. Was on phone 111 for half an hour waiting for them to finally get through, for them to go, if you're not incontinent, it's not an emergency, don't worry about it. Wait until your bloods. I was like, right, okay. I now physically can't walk. I had the wife dragging me to the toilet, which is 10 steps from the bed to the toilet.
Yeah.
And those 10 steps were probably the hardest steps I've ever taken. Using any wall, bit of furniture, or whatever to keep me propped up best I could. And I'm right-handed, so the left hand being the only one you could feel full made everything like that a lot harder as well.
And for your wife, who I met yesterday, she must be going through however much she shared with you at the time. She's obviously seeing visibly, not feeling the sensation, but seeing how it's impacting you. What kind of conversations were you having?
So it was down the lines of, right, if it's going to be easier, we'll get it, because the living room's closer to the bathroom, we're going to start making up a bed in the living room.
Okay.
Obviously, we've got the little one running about, and it was like, well, she can't.
Because this is last year, so your little one would be 18 months.
Yes. Right. So it was a lot of bending down to change nappies, which I couldn't get down, or I was down, but then couldn't get up. And all that.
This has all happened in what, 10 days?
Yeah.
Why?
Which, for me as well, I think if it was slower, I probably wouldn't have worried as much. You know, if, say, it was 2 weeks and then the next symptom. Yeah. But it was because it was literally, they were like, oh yeah, we've got a week, we'll do the bloods. They were quite calm about it and stuff. And I'm going, well, it's been 2 days and I've got now a symptom. And then we actually looked, when I looked back, because I had to keep a journal of what was going on, every 2 days a new symptom appeared for the biggest part of a month.
Okay.
That was the biggest thing with me and the wife was, right, get it noted, because I didn't want to confuse, when it came to coming and seeing the doctor, I didn't want this confused with that or anything else. It's all written down. And because my writing hand was numb, it was got Kelly's notes, which Kelly has lovely writing, so it was very easy to go here.
Okay. So that's a month. So you've had your bloods back.
The bloods back, and they basically said there was inflammation on one of the markers.
Okay.
We need to go for more tests. We're sending you to 9 Wells. At that point, alarm bells for me kind of went, because, like, you'll know yourself, living in Perth, they normally said PRI. If they're sending you to 9 Wells, it's a bit more.
PRI's like a cottage hospital now.
Yeah, I mean, I was, funnily enough, if you go back 33 years, I was born in PRI.
Right. Okay.
But none of that exists anymore.
No. So you've gone to 9 Wells, probably to the neurology department, was it? And then, I'm going to the neurology department. That's not straightforward.
So by this point, I'm about three days before my appointment.
Yeah.
I'd still been basically left leg tingling sensations.
Yeah.
Right side was completely numb.
Okay.
And I'm then thinking, it's a stroke. So I'm going, it's a stroke. Here comes all the steps of rehabilitation, all that sort of stuff. Luckily, one of my best friends, Scott, he would do anything for anybody, and he literally, you need to go to 9 Wells, right? I've got time off Kelly's got the wee one, don't bother Kelly, I'll take you. He was ready with his mum uses a Zimmer in a wheelchair at times.
Yeah.
She's got the Zimmer, I'll bring the wheelchair. We'll just wheel you in. And he was all ready with all that. So it's like, we're not there yet, but it's good to know that he was there. We gets into Ninewells, and I'm right, okay, I'm here for tests on an MRI, from what I was told. Urology department, you're going for an MRI. For the doctor to go, no, I'm just here to test your reflexes.
Okay.
And I went, what? And they were like, yeah, we just need to see how bad it is. So tested everything with the hammer and all that, needles again. Yeah, we need to send you for an MRI. I was like, oh, I got told that 2 weeks ago, but okay. She goes, yeah, we'll put you on the list, but it's 6 to 8 weeks minimum wait. And I goes, okay. I goes, and what happens before then? Again, if you become incontinent, we'll get you in straight away. If you're not, and you can still feel the sensation of needing to go to the toilet, we won't rush in. So much so, my friends actually joked and went, you should just say that you're incontinent because it will speed things up. So yeah, 3 weeks went by, and I'd heard nothing about the dose of bloods that got taken that time.
Okay.
So I phones up my GP, who went, I've still not got them. I went, well, this is strange. Called up Ninewells to find out that the doctor that took the bloods forgot to send on the email of my blood.
Okay.
All I got was we're very sorry, that's me, hit send now. And she hung up on me. Which, yeah, when you're getting to that point of no mobility, by this point as well, I'd had numbness across my chest. So literally everything bar my left arm was either numb or tingling.
Was the numbness, I don't know if this makes sense, it's contradictory, was the numbness painful?
No.
So you were just numb?
It was just numb. I felt like something was strange, and when I touched it with one hand that did work, I noticed there wasn't a...
Touch it with your numb hand.
I noticed... I noticed that I could feel it was more like pressure than a feeling.
Yeah.
Like I've got hair in my chest, couldn't feel the hair, but I could feel the pressure of my hand.
I understand, yeah.
I mean, so much so I was going like this on my arm, pulling the hairs, and I couldn't feel
that tension,
that
tug,
It was, just strange worrying sensations. And the best way that I described it was, I'm slowly getting entombed in my own body.
Wow.
And
that's scary.
Yeah. Well, especially, like, I kept getting told, oh, your symptoms aren't to someone your age. I was like, well, what are they?
33, did you say?
Yeah. So at the time I was 32
last year, yeah.
And I was 33 in October.
Okay.
But they were all, it was the same with every time they were, are you a smoker? No, never smoked in my life. Am I a heavy drinker? No, I have a drink at Christmas, maybe one on my birthday. I'm not a big heavy drinker either. And then they were like, oh, you can't be active. Well, I ran for Scotland for years. I kept that fitness up. The year before, I'd done the virtual London Marathon with COVID going on. Done all that training and all that.
So you weren't an unfit young man. You were a healthy young man to all intents and purposes.
Done everything that they would say ticks the box of being healthy. And
you've not had the most efficient health support through the GPs and tests and things. They have eventually remembered to send off the bloods to get results back. An MRI appointment's in the post.
Yeah.
What happens? Do you get the blood results then an MRI? Or?
Yeah, so the blood results came through and my GP finally goes, yep, that marker that I worried about is definitely highlighting.
Okay.
We need this MRI done. And I went, right, okay. She goes, you're going to...
Magnetic resonance imaging.
Yes.
That's right, isn't it?
That's right. I'm glad you remember that because I struggle with it. But as soon as someone says it, I'm like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, 6 to 8 weeks I'm meant to wait. On the sort of next morning when I wake up. So you're talking maybe 5 days from when I got the last blood, from when I got told my bloods were through.
Yeah.
You're talking everything, bar this arm. I could still, like I say, I had that, and I've got the stomach cramps of, I'm going to need to pee. At one point, I actually dragged myself to the toilet. Wow. The wife ended up having to go out with the wee one, and I physically lay on the floor, rolled myself onto the floor and dragged myself to the toilet. And the best way to describe it, which may be a bit too much information, but if you're sitting on your toilet pan, to figure out where, if I was sitting on it correctly, I had to put my thumbs in the bowl
I was nowhere near what you went through, but the last set of symptoms that I had, which led to pretty much the confirmed diagnosis, because at this point in my journey, I was already kind of confirmed it was MS, but it led to the lumbar puncture. Was I could not feel from my lower back all the way down to the bottom of my buttocks.
Yeah.
I couldn't feel anything. So I didn't know if I was looking after myself, if I'd been to the toilet and things like that. It was just like, and that was an I said to my wife, I says, I should probably go and get this checked because I can't feel a thing.
Well, yeah, the way, like I say, I had the thumbs were inside the bowl, so I knew my legs had to be between my thumbs.
Yeah.
And it felt like an air hockey table. I was floating on top. I was that hockey puck on the toilet, basically.
So you knew you were in the place, but you couldn't. You'd no sensation for the brain to connect with the bum.
Yeah, and then, like I say, I had the feeling of yes, I'm going, and my bowels were evacuated and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, to wipe and things, I had no idea if I was actually wiping or cleaning the way I should. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. That for me was the scariest thing I went through. I've been through lots of things like you described, not to the intensity that you've been through by any stretch. The numbness playing football, funnily enough, I knew I was kicking the ball, but I didn't feel I was kicking the ball, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any foot drop or any kind of lack of mobility. But the sensation was gone, which is bizarre. Anyway, sorry.
No, so yeah, from there, I called up my GP and went, look, I'm now, lack of a better term, I'm entombed here. I goes, I'm now a one-hand man. I goes, with no life, no work, no. I goes, this isn't. I goes, you're telling me I'm not an emergency, but in my eyes, I'm at wit's end. I goes, if my left arm goes numb, I'm just a talking ahead.
Yeah.
My GP went, look, I'm going to force this forward. I'm going to have words, chase it up, find out what's going on. They basically, at that point, 9 Miles went, oh, well, we'll put you on a cancellation list. And I went, well, why wasn't on that originally, which was now you're talking 2 weeks worth. It's like, there's 2 weeks I lost that I could have been on this cancellation list. Within not even 24 hours, I got a phone call going, there's cancellation, do you want it? I was like, yeah. I goes, don't care where it is. If I've got to go all the way to Brecon, whatever, just give me the appointment. Someone will get me there. And it was so that was on Monday. It was for the end of the week. So I was like, right, okay. Gets to, well, it wasn't the end of the week, it must have been 2 weeks. Within that 2 week period, my symptoms started bettering. So the left leg started becoming normal, so I could start limping around. My right arm started going normal. The only thing that didn't was my right foot.
Right.
It was still that numb. I was looking at the ground to make sure it was down flat, all that sort of stuff. But I was walking as if I just had a limp.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, as long as I've got my big sports trainers on, they're wide enough to just take the foot for me. As long as I was lifting my knee higher than I probably should have. But it was working for me. Gets into the MRI. They do all the MRI scans and all that sort of stuff. And basically, sent on my way.
So you went for the MRI.
Yeah.
Before that, I don't know, did you have any thoughts about what it was going to be like? Did you have any concerns about going into this big metal tube? How was the MRI experience?
One of my best friends is epileptic.
Right, okay.
Who's had them thousands of times, basically. Yeah. He falls asleep in them.
I fall asleep.
So
with the headphones and the music?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quiet by any stretch, but...
Well, because of that, and he knew by this point what I was going through, he detailed it to almost by night. So I knew exactly what I was going into. Even if the general, you're going for an MRI from the GPs and things, wasn't enough. He even had it, so I knew exactly what I was walking into. When I got in, I got told, we'll play the music. There's going to be a big and we're going to put your head in a box. Right, okay. And he goes, some people fall asleep, some people don't. You've got a air pump in your hand. If there's an emergency, squeeze it, and you can constantly talk to us. Just don't move. Right, okay. Gets in, and they play, what's his name now? Bruno Mars.
Oh, did you not get to choose from a playlist?
No, they just told me they had Bruno Mars album playing, and I was like, right, okay. Because I don't mind Bruno Mars. Not that I don't mind any music, to be honest. I was like, whatever. Just if as long as it's better than this. Problem was they stuck it on repeat on the same song.
Excellent, for like 40 minutes or something.
Yeah. And I had to go in twice.
Yeah.
So
you get the whole brain back,
yeah.
spine, yeah.
So, well, I went under. It was half an hour, and I then gets a, Kris, you all right? And I'm, yeah, fine. Why? And he goes, we're gonna have to stop. We need to pull you out. I was like, all right, okay. So they slides me out. He goes, yeah, the MRI isn't picking up everything. We've got to give you the, I want to say, barnium that goes into your veins.
Did you get the fluid, the coloured blue ink or something they call it, but it's obviously got a much more medical name than that.
That stuff. So he was like, yeah, we're going to have you sitting for 5 minutes while this goes into your system and put you back in.
Because that's a wee kind of like a drip thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
They inject you, or they put a tube in your arm for this to flow through. Yeah.
So it was quite, I mean, I'm not bothered with needles. It was literally just an injection and give yourself 5 minutes, we'll get you lying down and back in. And they obviously, before they inject, you want the toilet before we
more time
do
under,
it. Yeah. And I was like, no, let's just get on with this. Injected me, put me under. He's going, oh, is the music all right? And I went, yeah, Bruno Mars is just constantly one song. Can you please change it? It's now, I'd heard it about 20 times by this point on loop, and it was just, I was getting to that and annoying. And he went, yeah, no worries. Put me back under, put me in the cage. All you could hear was bzzz from the headphones. He just turned it off by accident. So I just took them off.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm done now. I'll just sit here and wait. Like yourself, and then got to that. It became repetitive, and I was started.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, I was getting to that head nodding sort of stage of my eyes are going here
because there's nothing else to do.
No,
you just got to rest.
Yeah. What made it worse was I must have been out for 5 minutes because I could see the clock through the because obviously it's a mirror above you, so you can see at your feet.
Yeah.
And there was a clock, and I must have been out for about 5 minutes. And when I came to, the guy in the booth wasn't there, and I'm going, hello. No one was there. He'd gone out the room, but hadn't told me. So I'm going, oh my God, what's going on? He came back. I was like, you all right? You there? He's like, sorry, I went to the toilet. I saw that you were asleep and just didn't want to disturb. I was like, yeah, thanks. So yeah, came out of that and basically sent home, told, yeah, you're
waiting on the results.
You wait on the results, you'll get an appointment with a neurologist to talk about it. Right, okay. I goes, how long is it? He goes, well, you're now a sped up case because of certain symptoms. And I was like, all right, okay. Sounds positive. Went home, told the wife all about it, and right, okay, this is getting a bit more serious. Got a phone call from PRI saying, look, we've got an appointment either in 2 days' time or you wait for a letter and we'll make an appointment. And you're, no, 2 days, let's go. Let's get this done. That night, I had heat radiating down my right leg. So my head went, it's a sciatic nerve. I've trapped a nerve.
Yeah.
This is what it's done. My body's overcompensated by going numb everywhere else until it's figured out what's. And as sports, I was relaxed more because I was like, I can deal with sciatic. I've dealt with clients who have had sciatic problems, and my mum had sciatica for years.
And it can be really painful.
So yeah, but I know it's livable.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that in my head, and funnily enough, the friend who's epileptic, he's doing his doctorate and all that sort of stuff and medical stuff, and we were chatting, and he was like, I don't think it is. He goes, I think it's more serious. And I was like, oh, great, okay. So my head went straight to cancer because I've lost, well, now 5 members of my family to cancer.
Oh, sorry.
At the time I had 4, and they were all, including my father, but I lost 2 grandfathers and my dad within 5 years of each other in a 5-year space, all to cancer. So my head went, if it's worst case scenario, it's cancer. If it's best case scenario, it's sciatic nerve. So when it came to the neurologist, who, wasn't the greatest bedside manner in the world, friend dropped me, he was in the waiting room. I'm walking around. By this point, I'm back to almost full normal. There's heat radiating, but I can feel everything.
Right.
And I'm like, I wasn't feeling, it's not great, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? I was like, the symptoms are going away. Watch this, it'll be something stupid that I've eaten or
we do that
damaged. Or,
again, don't we?
I was like,
whatever it was is past or passing.
He's going to turn around and go, just rest for another couple of weeks and you'll be fine. Walks in, sits down, and he's sitting across from me, looking at his screen, typing away, and he's, oh, hello, Mr. Mackie, take a seat. And he goes, so what do you think it is? And I went, well, I goes, my head's going 2 ways. Sciatic nerve or cancer. And he goes, well, let me recheck your notes. And he goes, yeah, just as I saw, right, aye, just as I thought. Have you got someone with you? Were you told to bring someone? I went, no, because I never got anything to bring any family member. I goes, but my friend's out in the waiting room who has been like family since, I've known him since I was 12. I was like, he's basically family. He goes, right, in that case, he goes, we don't normally let friends in, but I'll get you to go get your friend in a bit. He goes, it's more on the serious side. I was like, okay, so I goes towards the cancer end. And he went, it's up there, but not quite. And I went, okay. And at that moment, he was going, I'm just going to double check this before I give you the diagnosis. And he's scrolling things, and I'm kind of looking at the monitor trying to see, but it's all notes that's
Can't see
gibberish. Yeah. I was like, and he just goes, oh yeah, it's MS. And just carried on typing and scrolling through the things. And I went, sorry.
That's the most natural thing to tell somebody.
Yeah. And I was just like, sorry, MS. My brain just didn't go straight to multiple sclerosis. It just went, what's the MS? And he went, multiple sclerosis. And then just carried on again. And I was like, right. It was just the shock to the system, the hit of what does that... Now, I didn't know a lot about it.
Well, I was going to ask you, because I didn't know anything about multiple sclerosis until it began to be a conversation that I had with a neurologist years after first symptoms. And I was going to ask you the same. Getting told you've got it doesn't mean you know what you've got.
Well, I turned around, he goes, oh, do you know what it is? I was like, I've heard about it once, which was the old TV show Neighbours.
Or was it somebody in there had it?
Someone in there had it. It lasted 2 episodes and you never heard of it again. But I knew for a fact it was life-changing. And I was like, because he said it was up near the cancer, I'm going to die from this. That was instantly where the head went, rather than I'm thinking I'm going to be away. Yeah. My daughter was only 18 months. I started panicking, thinking I'm never going to be able to.
Your whole life just changed.
Yeah, I'm not going to walk her down the aisle. I'm not going to be around.
That moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'd lost my dad when I was 28. Yeah. My head went to my daughter's going to lose her dad before she meets 28. My wife's going to be a single parent, because it's not that I'm not going to be able to help, it's that I'm just physically not going to be here. And the panic, and he was like, oh, don't worry, there's ways to deal with it now. He goes, you must think it's a death sentence, and it used to be, but not anymore. And I'm like, well, oh yeah, sorry, I should have let you.
I think it used to be, it had significant impacts. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, he then turned around, sorry, I should have let you get your friend, eh? That was silly of me. Well, we've done it now, so we'll just carry on. And I was like, at this point, I was between crying and being upset, or screaming in anger, because it was so... He physically, it was glances to me as well. It wasn't talking like you and I are now. It was looking at the computer screen, turn his head to say what he was saying, and then turn his head back. It was like I was talking to a robot, and the head just turned when it wanted to communicate to you. And I was like, there's no emotion, there was no...
Quite literally, it's a very clinical experience.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Without the empathy and understanding, even just taking the moment to look you in the eye and say, right, okay, you're ready for this.
Exactly.
I've got some news to give you.
There was no...
your friend to be with you while this...
Yeah, there was no brace for impact or nothing. It was just as if it was... He was talking to another doctor, and a brief glance on the way past. And it was just... I think that hurt me more of how am I just getting palmed off again when you're now telling me my life's changed.
And at that point, with this is a neurologist, not a GP.
Yeah, no,
so this is a neurologist. At that point, did any recommendations get made, or any kind of steps get suggested for you to take to consider how you would manage your multiple sclerosis? Was it going to be, were you given a list of treatments, or were you told to go away and discuss it with your wife, or make another appointment? What happened?
Basically, what he then said was, here's a couple of websites, I'll write them down for you. Read them to the best of your ability. He goes, to understand there is now what's called DMTs. There's about 26. He goes, and a lot of these websites can figure it out for you. I'll get you back in 3 to 6 weeks, and we'll discuss through them. Here's the websites. If you head out, we'll need more bloods. Head up the corridor to the waiting room, we'll get more bloods. And he almost ushered me out the door.
And you've had your 15 minutes.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And as the door closed, there was no one else in the corridor, but I'm standing in the corridor looking at the door that's just closed behind me, thinking that just
What's
happened. And as I'm now,
you've almost got an out of body experience really to the situation. You know it's happening, you hear it's happening, you see it's happening, but you're watching yourself trying to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. And that corridor felt like the longest one in the world because I knew at the end was the waiting room where my friend was. And by the time I got near the door coming into the waiting room, I could feel myself welling up, getting upset. And as I walked around, first thing he goes, "Oh my God, are you all right? Sit down, what's wrong?" He knew straight away. Yeah. And I went, "Yeah, look, I've just been diagnosed with MS." And his instant reaction was, "Yeah, okay." Thinking I was having a laugh with him. And I went, No. And he's going, "You're kidding me." He goes, "Right, we're going home, what are we doing?" I goes, "I've got to get bloods through that door." And he went, "What's he told you?" And I just literally handed them the bit of paper with the 2 websites. I went, "I've got to look up them." And he went, "Is that it?" I was like, "Basically." Went in for the bloods, and one of the nurses is obviously getting me all sorted for taking the bloods. And she's so, "Oh, you're the one that's got diagnosed with MS." And I'm like, "Yeah." And at that point, the tears went. And she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I goes, "It's not you." I goes, "I don't know what it is." I goes, "I've not been." And she went, "Who were you with?" I can't remember the doctor's name right at the moment, but when I said it, she went, "I'll talk you through it." So she's taken the bloods. Actually, one of her colleagues had obviously heard me getting upset, came in to check how everything was okay. They closed the door, and the 2 of them calmed me right down. They basically went, "Look, it is life-changing." They goes, "But it's not life-changing that it's going to end tomorrow."
Yeah.
They goes, "There's things that can be done. It won't disappear, but it can be slowed. It can be all these other there's other steps now. Yeah,
it can be treated.
It's not a this is end all. There is paths that you can now take." And I got to admit, after 20 minutes chatting with them and stuff, I felt not relieved, but I was so much in a better mindset than what I was coming down that corridor.
You'd more positive. I don't know if positive is the right word, but you'd more to be able to consider rather than just a couple of websites.
I had that reassurance that there was now options.
Yeah.
Rather than
that's the word, options.
Here's your website, get on with it.
Yeah.
So went home. My friend stayed with me. He was like, "I'm not just going to drop you at the door." He goes, "We're going up, we'll go see the missus and stuff." And when I told the missus, she just came and gave me a hug. My mate was like, "Right, you're home, you're safe. I'm going to let you have your time." Within not even 5 seconds of that door closing, the wife was in tears, cuddling me properly, doing all the big discussions. She put the wee one, at that point, it must have been about 5 o'clock. So had tea, got sorted, wee one went down to bed, and she instantly, laptop was up. That was it. We sat for the rest of the night till midnight looking at these websites. And she was like, "Look, there's this, there's that." The websites were very black and white, though.
Yes. Yes. Do you remember which ones you looked at to begin with?
So
you've probably looked at them all by now.
Yeah. So they'd sent me to the MS Trust.
Yep.
And then it goes, "Oh, on the back of that, you want to try Society." And it was all this, "Oh, we can send you an information pack." The wife was just clicking yes. Yeah. She goes, "We want it all." She's very methodical that way. She likes to make lists. So she was making her own list at the same time. And the other one was a very strange, it was like an Edinburgh University type YouTube video of someone explaining what it does.
Yeah. Now, they may have been connected. There was something going on at the Edinburgh University where there was various trials, and they may have been part of that.
So,
if this is last year, that would make sense.
So it was basically a YouTube video of them sitting with a monitor going, "This is it attacking your nerves," and da-da-da-da. And I was like, it was good, but again, it was just very, this is what it's doing to your body, not this is what we can, or what's available now. So I was like, yeah, great, that's what it's been doing for the past 3 weeks, over 3 months by this point. And I was like, that's what it's been doing, but what's the next stages is what I was trying to find out. But it just became a snowfall of, well, you're now off for 2 weeks. I've signed off for another 2 weeks at that point. And I thought, well, I've got nothing better to do. So it was 2 weeks of research.
Pre-October, because you said you were still 32.
Yeah.
You were 33 in October, is that right?
So I got
And
diagnosed in August.
so your diagnosis was in August. Just remind me, when was that first symptoms with your right hand?
End of May.
So May
literally
to
last
August.
day of
so
May.
May, June, July, August, and so in 4 months you've gone from what might be considered, if that was all it was, fairly innocuous symptoms with a bit of pins and needles and numbness,
Yeah.
to severe numbness
Nice.
and pins and needles
Tingling, yeah.
in your left leg first, or your right leg
Right
first,
leg
and
first.
then over to the left leg,
Yeah.
a fall, numbness across your chest, numbness in your lower regions.
Yeah.
A pretty crappy experience with health service.
Yeah.
From a personal point of view, I
Like
for,
say,
for
mine-
the record, I have to say I had almost the exact opposite of your experience.
Right, okay.
Certainly at the latter part of getting
Yeah, well, like I
diagnosis.
said, my personal
Yeah.
GP was great.
Yeah,
Everything else around that just seemed to be off.
yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I had that rapport with my GP. It was just she know to give me the hard answers because I'd rather have that.
Yeah, possibly. And then you've had your diagnosis confirmed. You've started to do your own research, which I believe that's really important because it allows you it empowers you to be able to make decisions. I suspect it helped you make decisions for whatever disease modifying drug or therapy, DMT, DMD, whatever people call them, was going to be. But that's, again, you're still very much you're not even through a year yet.
No.
So
it's the same when I start talking to other people as well. We were talking about this earlier. You feel, because you're more able-bodied and stuff, you're not as bad off. Where are you? And when I got diagnosed as well, they'd found 2 inflammation lesions, thank you, on the brain and 1 on my spine.
Okay.
But the one on my spine, they were like, oh, yes, it's the size of a golf ball.
That's the biggest one.
Because that's your big one. Because the brain ones, we're seeing them, but they're not of worrying state yet. Because obviously avoid stress. And I was like, well,
you got MS. Don't stress.
Yeah.
Cheers. Chill, man. That's all cool. It's like you need vitamin D, but stay out of the sun because the heat's a killer. Not a killer, but the heat can be really debilitating.
But no, on the subject of vitamin D, that was one of the things straight away. The missus was like, right, boom, ordered your supply of vitamin D. Right, you're taking one of them a day.
So I'd love to know the changes that you made to your lifestyle.
Right, okay.
But before you tell us all about that, how quickly did you start taking a disease modifier? And what was it? And why did you choose it?
Again, it was slowed up due to NHS, not me. So I had those 2 weeks of full research. I literally got up, went into the kitchen, sat with a laptop and researched.
Okay.
The pamphlets and all that we'd ordered, it all started coming through. There was boxes and boxes of stuff with, I have MS, cards that you can carry in case you need into toilets and sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I actually carry it now in my wallet. And that sort of stuff. So I was reading it all the way through. I'd done the...
So something I've become, sorry to jump in there, hold that thought, is that I guess I've become more disability aware with MS because I've looked into it, and by default you end up getting information about disability and accessibility and things like that. And the fact that you've got to have a card to justify if you needed to use a disabled toilet because you can walk in and out of that toilet and somebody might get pissed off, quite literally, is fucking baffling.
Yeah. Well, definitely. What makes it worse is with my job, I actually have, because I work in the country, our bosses give us radar keys to get into disabled toilets. Because obviously some of the public you can't get into.
Yeah.
You would use it before all this was done.
And
you would feel bad about it.
Imposter.
And like I say, I felt bad about it.
Whereas,
I've actually had someone shouting at me, going, "You're not disabled." And at that point, I went, "Well, actually,
this time I am." Right. So, and we are. We're able to call ourselves and be classed as disabled.
Yeah.
Although, fortunately, and I always say this, and I always emphasise this, I regard myself as being really fortunate. I've got a fairly low level impact MS.
Yeah.
And touch wood that's going to be.
No, that's the same with me. Now, obviously, those 3 months.
You've had a fairly dramatic period, though, from first symptom to diagnosis. Much more significant and serious than I went through. and that's what makes it such a similar but completely different disease, illness, disease, whatever. But you were talking about the changes you made, so and also the disease modifier that you chose, and why.
The website, obviously, that I was given, you can put in details about yourself, so male, female, and it knocks out. So from 26, it jumped to 25, and it was due to, I've always wondered why I got ones taken off. So I looked into it, and it was, a female can't take this one because of pregnancy or all this sort of stuff. But each time you filled in a field, it dropped it down. And then I got down to 10, and they went, you can take any of these 10, and here's the percentage of success.
Its efficacy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the top one was every 3 months going for a transfusion. Now, seeing my dad going through chemo, and you're sitting...
Was that Ocrevus?
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's 3 or 6 months, but anyway, but a transfusion anyway.
Yeah. So, you're basically sat all day getting this pumped through you. And it was described in the comments of, if you've seen someone going through chemotherapy, this is sort of the same stuff. And I was like, that's great, but it doesn't work for my lifestyle. Because I've had the wee one work the lot, I was like, I can't take a day off every whatever months to sit in a hospital. And I hate hospitals. They actually laugh because when they take my blood pressure, it goes through the roof, and it's all because I suffer white coat syndrome, is what they put it down as. As soon as I see anyone in hospitals, so when they take blood, they don't do a blood pressure on me anymore because it's just invalid. So that was how that came about. I got down to off-da-umab. I was Uma Thurman is the way I remembered it.
Not a Kill Bill reference.
So I just turned around and went, that's the one I want. That's an EpiPen injection once a month. I can cope with that. It's got to be in the fridge. Fine.
Okay.
We're done. Let's go.
And so that you got, October was when you were diagnosed?
No, August.
August.
Yeah.
And so when did you start the Uma Thurman?
Well, this was... So I'd had 3 appointments that you had to go and discuss with the MS nurse. And on the first one, it was the meet and greet. But I was in and out in under 5 minutes of, hi, I'm Christine Watley. This is what we're going to do. Here's some more leaflets if you haven't read them already, and I'll see you in a week's time.
Christine's super enthusiastic.
And and I was like, brilliant, someone that's going to listen. Went away, came back the next week. I had the leaflets already, so I'd already knew. And we talked about, she goes, DMTs yet? I goes, I'm thinking this one. Brilliant, okay, when you come back, we'll discuss it. And when I came back, she was like, right, we're going to narrow down your DMTs. And I went, no, because I've got it narrowed to 2, literally 2. You just need to tell me which would be better for me. And she was like, that's not how it works. She goes, we do it slower. We're going to talk through it all. We're going to explain what MS is first, because some people don't do the research. And I was like, and she went, what? I goes, I've sat for 2 weeks non-stop looking at research. I goes, I'm pretty sure you could ask me anything, I'll know the answer. And it came to the end of we had a 10-minute conversation. At the end of the conversation, she went, we didn't need to have this meeting. Okay. She goes, well, I'm going to have to send you home and get you back in. So it was then 2 weeks later, so you're talking a month. So it would be, by the time we actually both agreed that's what we're going to do, which DMT I was going for, my first injection, which was with her, obviously viewing and explaining how to work it all, would be November. Yeah, it was November.
Okay.
The 12th.
So it's 4 months from diagnosis.
Yeah, was the first injection. You then have to take it with that. It's then weekly for the first month.
Okay,
and
so
then
it's
it
a
becomes
small
weekly.
amount and then increase it.
So no, the amount's the same.
Oh, really?
But they do it because it basically the side effects knock your body because it's actually attacking your immune system. Basically trying to tell it that it's done its job instead of it.
It's distracting it from what it is doing.
Yeah. So the way it got explained to me was when your immune system's obviously fighting you, because that's what MS is, it's sending the signals to the wrong place. What would normally happen is they attack the foreign object and then dissolve, but they're not dissolving, so they're constantly hitting. This thing dissolves them, so the brain thinks it's done what it needs to do. So for the side effects of it, apart from like the main ones of like blurry vision stuff, I got every side effect on that list.
So share.
So
not because you want to scare anybody, but it's an experience, and it's an honest experience. So what were the side effects you had with it?
So head cold, pressure, runny nose. I didn't lose smell, but that sort of, how would you explain it? Like blocked nostril. You know, like you can only smell out one side at a time. Tingling down. So I constantly suffer with tingling down my hands now, but it almost overemphasised that tingling. So it is fuzzy, is the way I describe it. You get that fuzzy feeling. Whatever leg I inject in goes heavy. It's like someone's giving you a dead leg constantly. That for 24 to 48 hours.
Right. Okay.
It goes that way. And just that feeling like you've been hit by a bus. You know, you're just tired for no reason. You've slept for 12 hours, but you're still tired. Your body aches, but there's no. It's like having a bad cold. You know, yeah. It's just that, and your muscles are just not ready to respond. I got hit with all that side of stuff. The only ones, like I say, I didn't get was blurry vision and loss of taste. It says can happen for the 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
After the first 3, now the only one I get is the heavy leg, and I'm a bit more tired once I've taken it. But I take it late at night, so the next morning I'm still tired, but it's had 7 to 8 hours to So the worst symptoms are while I'm sleeping. And luckily with it, you can adjust your times. So that's how we did it. When I first injected, it was midday. And I was like, well, that's not great. If I'm at work, I can't just pull out an EpiPen and get on with it. So we gradually, talking with MS Nurse, moved it down and down. So I now take it at 7 o'clock at night every month, and it does its thing. So once you take it, you have to basically sit for 20 minutes. You're not allowed to move while it's doing the first move, and then they say to rest for an hour at least.
Okay, so it's an hour and a half to 2 hours from once you take the injection.
And then that night I'm just, you get the head, that bunged. It's not a cold, but that
just heavy,
slight pressure.
Fuzzy,
for that night. Go to bed. Next morning I get up and I'm leg's heavy. Right, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And the muscle, like I say, you're just that over tired. You know your body's working more than it should. You can just tell. But apart from that, I'm touch wood.
So 12 jags a month, 12 jags a year.
Yeah, it works out. It's 13.
Okay.
Somehow.
Yeah. But you've got one a month on average. Is what you.
So I take it, like I say, it's now down to the 12th of every month, because that's it. Because it was meant to be every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But they say a lot of people forget what that means, so they just pick a date. Yeah. So as soon as I found that date, my whole calendar, 12th of every day, it's written on it to remind me. And you've got 5 different zones you can inject to. You can have it in your stomach, which I couldn't because of my hernia scar.
Okay.
Can't have it in your scar tissue. You can put it in the back of your arms, but you can't do that yourself. You need your partner or someone else because of the angle.
Area, yeah.
Because it's a pressure pen, it's not a button.
Okay.
Once the pressure is applied, it then injects itself. So I do thighs only, but I swap each month what leg. I could do every time on one leg, but
you'll end up getting a welt or a scar or some sort.
Well, that's the thing.
Area which will become less receptive, I would have thought.
Yeah, so that's why I swap it every month. But yeah, now it doesn't matter, like I say, what leg I do it in, I still get the exact same side effects, symptoms. But yeah, the first 2, it was, some of for 24 hours, it was just, you felt like death.
But you stuck with it.
Yeah.
You stuck with it. Well done. So that's 7 months, 8 months roughly you've been taking that.
9. I've just had my 9th.
Of course, 9th of July, 12th of July. So I'm going to talk about Perth and North MS Society and the work you've been doing, raising money and funds as well, just in a sec. But you've now been taking the disease modifier. You had a whole barrage of symptoms which led you to eventually getting a diagnosis of MS. How are your symptoms now?
So apart from tingling down hands, and it's both worse on my right, which is my dominant hand, I don't have that bad symptom-wise. Like I say, I get the symptoms worsened on what would be the 13th of every month, because it's the day after, and then it's dealing with all the... But apart from that, I'm, touch wood, 9 times out of 10 normally fine. unless I've realised something, if I'm really stressed out due to something at work or whatever, I get what they call a blip. So a flare up, what I was described as, has to last for more than 48 hours, which I didn't realise until I had a flare up. I
thought it was 24, but maybe it's changed to 48.
I was told 48, but I don't know if that's
Yeah.
different
No,
depending on
I think
what symptoms are.
there's a standard. You're
Yeah.
probably right.
So I went out to work and went, I can't feel my arms. This isn't good. And basically, it was my boss had actually seen I came in from the pouring rain.
Yeah.
And she went, why didn't you come and get a jacket? And I went, what you on about? And she goes, look at your arms. And the water was pouring from my hands. And I was like, yeah, I can't feel any of that. And she goes, well, that's going to affect your health. She goes, right, what's been going on? Funnily enough, that's why I wanted to come and see you. And I was like, well, yeah, but I'm just dealing with it and getting on.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're getting stressed out, which is probably what's called it.
Yeah,
So,
stress definitely has an impact on how your body responds.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So when
even without MS, it has an impact. So with MS, it's even worse.
So I then contacted the MS nurse and said, look, this has happened sort of few hours in the afternoon these past couple of days.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, we class it as a blip. She goes, it's nothing to be concerned about.
It's not a relapse, it's a blip.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a blip.
She goes, yeah. She goes, it's a blip in the system. She goes, basically, you've been in a stressful situation. It can happen. She goes, if it's not debilitating you enough to stop you living, don't worry about it. She goes, just keep a note yourself of what might have caused it. But she goes, if it's more than 48 hours, we need a call because it goes down on your record.
It becomes an official relapse. Okay, that makes sense. 40 hours does make sense. So apart from that, any other significant blips?
No, not at all, luckily.
Long may that continue.
Yes.
Long may that continue. What you talked about, obviously doing some of the research, vitamin D got added to your supplements.
Yes.
Any other changes lifestyle-wise that you've decided to make for yourself because you've either just thought that looks like it might work or it would just be a good thing to do?
So I now wear an SOS talisman.
Okay.
That I bought off Amazon myself. In the back of there unscrews and it's got all my medical history, what I'm allergic to, what I'm not, names, address, contact numbers. Because I want to get back into my running, and the wife had the worry that what happens if you collapse halfway through a 3-mile run, if you can still do that. Obviously got told I couldn't run for the first year, which...
Seriously?
Yeah, I got told it would be better not to.
Who told you that?
The MS nurse. Because I was a sprinter and stuff, she goes, you'll probably push yourself harder than you should. Take a rest for the year, do not run.
As a runner, I would challenge that massively. And I would also challenge that, knowing what you have been doing, which we'll talk about that in a wee bit. My advice would be, if you physically feel you are able, you should do what you feel you can do.
Well, so that's where the walking came in.
And I ain't a doctor, I ain't a specialist, I certainly am a neurologist.
Yeah, going for a run every 2 days, which for me, mentally, I used to go for a run a lot, even when I was at school and things. Yeah. If I was stuck with exams or whatever, I'd go for a run and I'd come back and know the answer to certain questions, and it was just to clear my head. Yeah. To not be able to be told not to do it for a year. God, it's been a hard year.
Yeah, we were on holiday just a couple of weeks back, and we got talking about running and things, and somebody asked me about how regular I go out running and stuff, and I had to think about it a little bit. And my wife says, put it this way, if he doesn't go for a run, he's a grumpy kid. So I understand emotionally, if you're unable to do the things which give you that pleasure or that mental satisfaction, it does then have an impact on how you feel mentally. So for fear of being criticised, go and run if you want to run. So you've got your pendant, you've got your vitamin D supplements. Yep. Any other changes? And I think it's worth emphasising, you're still, and I didn't realise when we first met last week, 3 weeks ago it would be, roughly 4 weeks ago, when we were at the coffee night at the Ex-Service Club. I forgot the name. But you really are at the very beginnings of a journey which I've been on for 20 plus years. Yeah. You know, although my diagnosis came in 2017, my symptoms began in 2002. Lower level, and I'm kind of repeating what I said earlier, a lower level of similar symptoms in many cases, in many ways. So anyway, so you're still probably deciding what changes you want to make alongside the official medical advice, excuse me, that you're going to take as well.
It's the same with the group. I obviously, in my head, got told, oh, go to this group, and I'm thinking like AA meetings, you're going to sit there and go, hello, my name is Kris and I have MS, and here we go. And when we got there, it totally wasn't that, and I'm so glad that it wasn't like that, because I had it in my head of, I'll go to one, if I don't like it, that's me, I'm not going. And I've got to admit, 9 times out of 10, most nights from what I've seen, I'm probably the youngest one there, but that doesn't put me up or down either way. But to know,
I think you are. I think you certainly look the youngest. The girl that was there to your right, I'm not sure. She's obviously younger as well, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm terrible. I actually think I'm still really young, but then I have to check myself because I'm nowhere near as young as I think I am. Anyhow, sorry. Yes.
So going to the group, we had Steve, whose 20-year journey, his symptoms actually seemed to mirror mine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting talking to him just to see how he went through it, especially 20 years ago when there wasn't as much medication.
No, there was hardly anything. Yeah.
So to have that actually helped me a lot. It made me come to terms with it, especially because Jan, his wife, doesn't have it, and to see it from her point of view, which when I then brought Kelly, she got to chat to people who haven't got it but are dealing with it from the outside, as I like to say. Because as we've said, it's not just that affects us, it affects your family, your friends, your loved ones, basically.
It affects anybody that knows you've got it in a broad scale of ways, and that's actually a great point, because I was wanting to ask, and I will ask. So what I'm going to ask is, it sounds like you've came out of the MS closet, as I describe it. You've come out of the MS closet fairly quickly, in terms of just being open about it and saying, this is me, this is the new version.
So when I got the diagnosis and got home, and me and the wife talked about it and stuff, I had 24 hours of getting upset about it, getting angry about it, going through all the emotions.
Yeah.
And at the end of the 24 hours, I sat in my room quietly on my own and went, I can look at this 2 ways. I can either sit in a corner and cry and get upset and, oh, well, me, I've got MS, when there's 1,000 other million people with a lot harder, worse cases. Or I get up, I find the problem and get on with this and figure out ways of coping with it.
Yeah.
Getting ways to, like I say, show my daughter that when she grows up, look, your life can be difficult, but you move on. There's not
that's cool.
You don't back down. You don't as the Rocky film I always like to quote as well, life, nothing hits harder than life. So if it's going to knock you down, it's the ones that get back up that push through.
It's not how hard you get hit or whatever. I can't remember the quote, but you're right. Yeah, it's how often you get up, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I had it in my head. So when, like, me coming back to work, my boss was like, "Yeah, we won't tell anyone, blah." And I went, "No, I'm going to tell the ones that I really know, really good work friends. I'm going to tell them first." Because I went, "I've had this. Ask me questions."
It's quite empowering. It gives you control.
Yeah. The way I see it as well is, a lot of the guys, especially at work, didn't know anything about what MS was. And in my head, I thought, well, ask me questions. I don't know. I mean, I'm only a year in now.
What's the strangest question you've been asked?
It's not actually asked. It's more of the ones that tell you they've found a cure. That's the funny ones.
Have you tried this?
I got within the first 2 weeks. I got told, did I know about an apple in Brazil that supposedly can stop MS?
And did you search this apple out? What's the Lidl's or Aldi's?
I just nodded and went, "Oh yes, totally."
I've got a tree out the back.
Yeah, I was like, surely if that would be a thing, explain it to them. If that was a thing, it would be round the world within days.
And you know what? It's coming from the best of places.
Yeah,
all this advice and everything else, and it's really it's lovely that people want to give you what they've heard.
Yeah.
It's lovely that they want to tell you about their granny's mum's auntie's neighbour who had MS and suddenly they're
cured and
whatever it might be.
Singing,
but equally, like you, I didn't know it. So did I know anything about MS? I don't know. I can't remember what I did know about multiple sclerosis before it became a part of my life personally. All I do know is I now know a lot of people with multiple sclerosis. Personally, like yourself, through groups like the local Perth and Kinross group, through work, I've had people connect with me. Some who hadn't come out publicly, but because I had reached out to me to say, I've got MS, thanks very much for sharing. I'm just trying to find a way my own self to kind of decide who I tell and when I tell them. And then also on platforms like YouTube or Shift MS or MS Society.
But that's, again, where my head was. I could keep it all quiet and get on with this best I can myself with the family and knowing and all that. And then I thought, why? To me, it was a stumbling block. Why am I hiding behind MS? It's not what defines me. It's a part of me, but it's not my main definition. I'm not, hi, I'm MS and my name's Kris. My name is Kris. Yeah. I have MS.
Yeah.
It is a small part of me. But
I'm Kris. It's also I'm Kris, I'm right-handed.
Yeah, that's sort of, you know what I mean? It's a small part. Yes, it takes a big lump out of you.
Because I used to.
But it's a part of you, not the main part.
They're still out there. I've got YouTube videos when I first started to do YouTube videos. When I got my diagnosis, I thought, I'm going to be this person who's on YouTube sharing stories and blah, blah, blah. I always signed off. Thanks for watching. I'm Barney Black. I've got MS, but it doesn't have me. And I stopped doing that because I thought, that's not really what I want to say about MS. And like I've just said to you, I'd be just saying I'm Barney Black, I've got MS, and I'm left-handed. Because they're both as relevant. I know that one potentially could have significant impacts on whether I can stay left-handed or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely.
But I don't want it to define me. I don't want it to be something. So this is. I'm going to now contradict myself, right?
Okay.
I don't want it to be something which defines me in any shape or form. But I've also now come to the conclusion that I try to almost belittle the flavour of MS that I've got, the type of MS that I've got, because to look at me, nobody would have a clue that I've got any symptoms at all. Like you, myself, I've got the numbness. I've got numbness from my knees down on both legs. I've still got lower back numbness and lower back area numbness. And it all began, like you, on my left hand. Now, whether or not it's because I'm left-handed it started there, I don't know. Yours was right-handed, so I don't know if that's a thing. But then it spread to my right hand, then it spread to my feet. Same thing. It didn't spread. It began, the symptoms began to appear. And so by doing these and having people like yourself being gracious with your time and sharing the personal story, that's what I believe I want to do about MS. It's to share that vast range of how it impacts people.
Yeah.
Because it can be, like Heather, I'm sure she won't mind. Heather has to use a stick, she has to use a stroller, she's got a chair to get about, depending on how bad her symptoms can be.
Especially, the thing I found, especially when you're looking at all the paperwork, and even to this day, it bugs me to a point actually, was when I researched it, it was in my head of, when you wake up, you'll know if you're having a bad day. And that's not true. You can go a full day, no bother, you'll get to 6 o'clock at night, and suddenly, the fatigue will just hit you like a boulder out of nowhere.
For sure, absolutely.
And that's where I think a lot of the guideline paperwork stuff is too black and white.
And for anybody listening, fatigue isn't just being tired.
No.
Fatigue is not being able to move. It's just a weight. It's a dead weight.
It's the same with brain fog. I didn't realise MS had such a thing about brain fog.
Oh, I had a face for that. It was terrible.
I've had the wife talking to me. And
you just ignore that.
That's what she said.
You know about that.
That's what she said. She goes, you've just been ignoring me. And I was like, no. What made it worse for her was I was answering her.
Yeah.
And she goes, you've given me answers. She goes, what have you just said to me? I went, not a clue. And she was like, haha, you're being funny. I was like, no, I honestly have. And I actually got upset with myself because I was trying to, it was like I've just lost 5 minutes of time.
Yeah.
And I've looked back at my watch and went, where'd those 5 minutes go? What have I actually said? What have I done? And then you'll go, it's like when you go into a room and you go, I forgot something. What is it? Why did I come into this room? Now, you get that with age. But I find it with MS, you do it at certain random places where you could be, I've watched a TV show that you've loved. You've seen it 1,000 times of, I don't know, something old, like Only Fools and Horses, for example.
Yeah.
Been around for years, you've seen the episode 1,000 times. but you'll watch it this time and go, what happened in that episode?
Yeah.
And it's just because you can't think of what it was.
Yeah.
I had a phone call this morning with the electric company, and they were sorting out how many people are living in the house, and they asked me from my daughter's birthday. I could not remember her birthday.
And the trouble
and
is,
I was like,
the harder you try to remember it and bring it forward from your memory, because you know it's in there, it just seems to go further and further back.
Yeah. And you get frustrated and angry with yourself because, especially your daughter's birthday, there's no way you should be forgetting that. And it's not that you've forgotten it, you know it, it just isn't there to grab that bit of information.
Yeah, and one of the I used to go through that. I felt more than was just for being forgetful. And when you described there, you get yourself a little bit more worked up, a little bit more stressed because you can't pull that knowledge that you know is in there. And in fact, it should be so easy to recall. So I just began to just stop thinking about it. I just, right, okay. And the more I think, the harder it's going to be. I just go and do something else mentally. And then it would appear. And it's just little mind games that you try and learn and adopt, you know.
It was the same. I was, like I say, on the phone, and I went, goes, just give me a second. And I just went, there it is. Right.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you all right? And even down the phone, she was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I know, I've got it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to take me a minute or two to get there.
And you do have to find not controls, you do need to find ways to kind of deal with how it impacts you, because again, you're going through the very early stages of being able to associate what's happening with you to MS or to life, and it's deciding how you align those things.
Well, there's definitely times as well, because I'm diabetic, I used to get the handshakes when my sugars are low. I suffer with low blood sugar, so I'm a hypo side. But it's not the first time I've woken up and or gotten up and went to grab a bottle or something and my hand's shaking. And I'm like, is that the MS? Or is that the diabetes? Or, as they say, don't try and associate with anything, and is it just something else? Yeah. And you've trying to remember that is really difficult, because I automatically
to your 50s.
So
I have to, anything that occurs to me like that may be a symptom, the first thing I'll check myself is, remember, you're in your 50s, Barney. It could just be old age, you know, which isn't old, but you know what I mean. You know?
The one thing I didn't think I'd be doing at 33 is when I wake up, I do a head to toe check before I get out of bed.
Okay.
And it's literally what's working today, what's not tingling,
That's good though. That's a good conscious exercise.
Yeah, but it's, like I say, I never thought I'd be doing it at 33. I thought, maybe in my 60s or whatever, fair enough. But I'm already doing it, and it's because when I was entombed, or getting entombed, and I had to write down the new symptom, I did it every morning. Oh, my foot's still numb. Oh, now it's my shin. Okay, add that to the list.
Keeping a journal or a diary is a good thing, I think.
Yeah. It definitely helped when it came to, because I had so many different doctors as well, they kept asking me dates, and I was like, I can't remember the dates, whereas I went, here's a journal, and every day was written down.
Brilliant.
And it just made life easier that way. Whereas they were like, what were you doing on Friday, the blah, blah, blah. And you had an appointment with the doctor, and I'm, yes, okay.
Yeah, I find the short-term memory is the most vague. And if I don't write the short-term stuff down, I tend to have to go and ask somebody to remind me. Longer-term stuff, not so much. But occasionally, you just really struggle on a point, don't you? You just it just seems to be so distant, and just like, why can't I remember that? Because it should just should be so obvious. Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I was going to ask you about the diabetes, and that has it impacted your diabetes and how that's controlled?
No, if anything, it's almost, because I was kind of controlling that myself. It's dietary controlled mine. I don't take any medications for it. It seems to be fine. The only thing they're currently concerned about is I went for bloods and to check that everything's doing what it should be doing. And I was out for 4 hours, stuck in PRI for 4 hours rather than a 20-minute in and out appointment. And they think that when they were wondering if my MS meds were dropping my sugar levels. So they've now put me on because they had me on fasting for bloods. And they were like, you shouldn't be on the fasting list.
No.
So they were like, that's where the mess up was. I'd been going in fasting for an early appointment, and I went, can we get this over with? I need to eat. This is getting quite bad. And that's the day I went under. And they were like, yeah, it can't be coincidence. I was like,
No.
well, you told me to do it. I'm doing what I was told.
Yeah.
So
okay.
they've now just went, yeah, you're not allowed to fast anymore. I was like, well,
Okay.
that's positive.
Well, that's good. And that's good that there's no obvious kind of overlaps or
No.
any complications created because of either the disease modifier they're
That's-
taking,
yeah.
or the MS itself impacting diabetes. That's good. Let's move into, again, because you've obviously been quite open and quite, I don't know if it's fast, but it seems quite fast moving from being Kris pre-MS to Kris post-MS and being visible and people knowing that,
Yeah.
that you're the guy that's got multiple sclerosis and your work and everything else. When did you first get involved with the Perth and Kinross MS Society group?
I'd have been October.
Okay.
So I was diagnosed, October. Well, October, no, it'd be September probably.
Okay.
So it'd be about a month after diagnosis.
Right.
I'd found them and was like, yeah, okay, I'll see about this. And I
Mhm.
messaged Debbie, and she went, yeah, come along, you're more than welcome. Da, da, da. We were at the Mercure at the time.
Yeah.
And wandered in, not really sure what to expect, and was happily relieved. And since then, I've gone almost to every session. I missed one. We were away for a family night.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until just after Christmas we were chatting. There's a person there, Andy, who had a wheelchair, whose wheelchair broke down over the Christmas period. Battery stopped working.
Mhm.
And they were like, oh yeah, it was £600 to get a new battery for this wheelchair. And they were stuck in the house for 2 weeks because no one would deliver between Christmas and New Year. And it was the MS group that went, oh, if we knew we could have helped you out a bit, maybe paid half of it or paid it so they could pay it back in installments.
Yeah.
Whereas the company wanted it as a lump sum. So they paid it, and it was like, that's a lot of money for someone that not working.
That's a huge amount of money, yeah.
I mean, it's a huge amount of money for anyone. And I thought, that's just not fair. Now, I've always done charity events over the years.
Okay.
When my grandfather passed away with cancer, I did 20 hours free running, which is a sport I coach. But I'd done 20 hours free running non-stop for Macmillan cancer support, things like that. So when it came to the MS, I was like, I want to do something to raise some funds. Was told that, yes, try and not go for a run and all this sort of stuff. I was like, well, I'll go for a walk. And the missus was like, yeah, just go round Dinch a couple of times, see what you can. I was like, nah, that's too easy. So I decided three Munros on 3 separate months. And
you've done 2 of them already?
I've done 2 of them already.
And had you done Munros before this?
Yes.
So you had a rough idea what you're letting yourself in for?
Yeah, I hadn't done them in probably about 7 years. So, yeah, my brain knew what was going on, whereas the body went...
But we do that, don't we? We kind of rationalise it. Again, we do these things. We rationalise, that's fine, 7 years ago, it'll be fine now.
It was in my head as well. I'm like, the gents I was up with the other day, they were like, oh yeah, have you done like Shahalian? Yeah, I did it in college. It was bra. We'd done jumping off down the screen and all this. And we're walking up this one and I'm going, yeah, not jumping off anything today. It's like, that's not happening anymore. There's a big difference between back in my college days to now, far less with everything else that's going on. But no, it's going well. I mean, we're £360 so far raised out of the 500 target.
I'll put a link in the show notes. I'll put a link in the episode that we've got
brilliant,
this for your page and for the Just Giving, because I think quite importantly, and I found this out from you, I think when we first met a few weeks ago at the coffee evening, is that you've been very clever in making sure that the funds actually stay within the Perth and Kinross group and not the wider MS Society.
Because they don't go to head office. They go straight into Perth and Kinross, which covers the Perth group, the Kinross group, and the Blairgowrie group.
And that's a fairly big
Yeah.
area. And judging by the Sunday lunch that we had yesterday, that's a lot of people affected by multiple sclerosis, and they weren't all there.
No.
But there must have been easily 100 plus yesterday.
Not far off it. I think from what I've seen with the Christmas lunch, you could probably easily double what was in that room of what I've seen.
Yeah.
Because me and the wife were always sitting there, we don't see this person, we don't see this person. And I was like, I bet it's about double what was in on
Well, you
Sunday.
Probably know with the research you've done, Perth and Kinross Tayside is one of the biggest concentrations in the northern part of
Well,
Europe
they say
for
it's
multiple sclerosis.
1 in 3 in
Yeah.
Perth and Kinross alone, and it's like that's bonkers.
And
to not hear about it was beforehand was
Yeah.
an even more shock when I
but
heard
now,
those
now that
figures.
you have got it, now you've got your own version of it. I
Aye.
bet you, like me, know many people
Yeah.
who
Oh,
either
definitely.
have it or
Know someone close by,
family
yeah.
member has it.
Oh, definitely. And it's crazy to think when I actually met someone in one of my old works, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've had it for years."
Yeah.
I've worked with you for 12 years and never knew. And they're like, well, I just didn't tell anyone. I didn't.
Yeah.
And
And that's why I think these conversations that we're having are really important, because there's lots of people out there with it, but you might not know it.
No. And like I said, the way I found doing the research doesn't always help. You need that's too black and white. Seeing that grey area from people's different point of views, that it's not the same for every single person,
Yeah.
or the start symptoms aren't always the same, or the DMTs you get put on aren't going to be the same
Yeah.
depending on the person. All that wasn't clarified. It was very, this is it,
Yeah.
and that's the path you take, or you take that path, end
Yeah.
of. Whereas it isn't that way.
I think the path is undefined.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
For you, for me, I think we've got an idea of where it might lead, but we need to decide how it gets furrowed.
Oh,
We need
definitely.
to plough our own path as much as we can with the control that we have got. Because the MS doesn't give you any warning.
No.
You know, the symptoms that you got appeared.
Yeah.
No, and then brought some friends with it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And then, thankfully and gratefully, they've subsided.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. It's relapsing, remitting. It's not. It's gone forever, or it's not as if it's gone and left no trace.
No, which then obviously in my head as well is because it's relapsing. When a relapse happens, do I go back to loss of limbs?
What will the relapse be? Or will it be a blip?
Or yeah, exactly. So it always sits there, and it'll never go away. But do I then go every day going, "Oh, is this going to be the day?" No, of course not.
Doesn't sound like you do.
Because if you do, you're going to bring yourself down further. You're going to stress yourself out more, which then causes the blips and everything else. So yeah, you're better, in my eyes, being open about it. If it helps one person, great, job's done. You know, if I have a friend that has, my mum's just been diagnosed, can I ask you questions? Go for it.
Yeah.
Because if it's going to help them so they don't have to go through all the silly rigmarole I did, great.
Let me ask you then, and it's in 12 months' time, you might give this question a completely different answer, but still within a year from when you had those first symptoms. Actually, I'm going to ask that question in a minute. Now you've got the hindsight of being diagnosed and had that first set of relapses, which led to the diagnosis eventually. Is there anything prior to that, prior to last year, that you think that might have been an MS relapse? Or are you...
No, the only thing, because of where they said the golf ball lesion on my, because they're right between my shoulder blades,
spine, yeah.
They were like, have you ever had issues with your shoulders? I was like, oh, for years. Now, my left shoulder actually dislocates and I can pop it in and out.
Okay.
But if I'm doing a lot of walking, I've had pain along them, right in that area where and I was like, it could be coincidental, it could be, it could have been an addition, but there's nothing to say specifically that's what it was. And like I say, there's nothing in my head that defines, oh, that's the start of it, or that's...
Well, the start of it for you sounds like it was back in, last
May.
May.
So, yeah, which the only thing around there, like I say, I'd gone for a run and I knew I tripped over my foot. And like I say, it was, my hand tingled and then my foot went, and I thought,
coincidence.
Could be a coincidence, or it could have been the start of it, I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows how it starts, because they can't tell us.
No.
They can't tell us. With the best will in the world, they're still looking for reasons and also cures, which... we can only hope that they do find them for those with any type of MS. The question I was going to ask, with your freshness into the MS world, is, in someone else is looking for advice, they're going through perhaps the pre-diagnosis stages that you went through, what advice would you give anybody that's on that road now, beginning to kind of conclude for themselves, because I think
Right, okay.
I did, and I think you did. You got the diagnosis, and then you went and really dug into the information. But what do you think you could give people in the way of advice?
Just be more open-minded about it all. The clinical side is very definitive in trying to put you in a box.
Mm-hmm.
MS doesn't do that. As we've said, I mean, the way I see it is the clinical side is like a motorway. You have one or two directions to go, and MS is a tree at the side of the road. All those routes can go in all different directions and suffer you in all different ways.
That's good.
Don't assume you've got to be on that motorway. It could be you take a different route, a side road, whatever. But it's try not box yourself into, I have MS and this is now my life. It's, no, I've got my life, but I now cope with the MS. Find things out with the clinical research, because that's what helped me a lot.
And is there anything that you're still exploring, or anything that you just now you're consciously thinking, I found this out, I'm going to try, or is there anything which is on your kind of horizon?
Yeah, so I'm still figuring out what could cause triggers or issues. So certain days I do get, like, I've got the tingling, but certain days it's worse tingling than others.
Mm-hmm.
So it's trying to figure out why that is. Is there a reason behind it? So I went and, funnily enough, got myself a new Garmin watch that actually has a body battery on it, which I'm interested to find, because they obviously say that the spoon analogy, as we say, everyone normally starts with 10 spoons of energy. People with MS start with 6, and you've got to get through the same amount of day. But it'd be interesting to see what that actually comes away battery-wise of. Is that accurate enough to say, look, today you've only got actually 80% compared to the 100%?
Right, okay.
Because of, you had 9 hours sleep, you've had this, you've done this, you've done everything right, but
and also perhaps
it's not going to happen.
Stress levels, or your heart rate, and things like that.
Yeah.
If your watch does that as well.
So
that's good. Yeah.
That's something that's currently on my mind constantly. Is there things that I could be doing better to make
how can you
everything easier? Yeah. Even if it's something small as, okay, I've noticed I'm taking, I've got to take sugar for my diabetes, but I'm now overcompensating with the sugar because I don't want the diabetes to flare up in amongst everything else.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's then having the opposite effect on the MS side. Same with the fitness. So, I run my own sports club as a volunteer doing free run. I've taken a back step from the fitness side of letting people demo for me.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind doing, but I always like getting involved. And I'm wondering if, because I've taken such a back step, because I was told, try and not run, try and not do your fitness, have I gone the other way and gone too far back? And I need to get back into that fitness, back into finding where my happy medium is, rather than, I don't want to be pushing it and I'm killing myself, but I don't want to be...
Even, again, for fear of criticising those that have spent years studying medicine and everything else, I think they're talking about their arse. If you can
it was the first thing they said to me was, you want to keep your fitness up because it helps keep it at bay if you've got that fitness, if you're able to do it. And I was like, great. And they were like, yeah, but don't go out running yet, because if you collapse somewhere, no one knows where you are. I was like, yeah, but I can do public streets. You know what I mean?
Tell people where you're going, how long you should be, all that kind of stuff. Do all the
wife and I have got
that you need.
App, so you can pinpoint where they are.
Yes,
so we've got all that tracking app and things. So we've done all that sort of stuff. It's the same.
And okay, so don't go run a marathon tomorrow.
No, but
maybe have a jog around the inch.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's the same with the other thing I would say to people that are researching it now, or about to get a diagnosis, or just had their diagnosis. Something I never knew about until a couple of months in, at least, was, for Scotland anyways, ADP, Adult Disability Payment.
No, don't know about
that. You should definitely be applying. So basically, it's adult disability payment is what it is. It's government funded. It's things that help for people with any disability.
Okay.
It's now, the form is a book. It's a nightmare of a book, but it's an 80-page book to fill out. But it goes from everything from daily living, trying to get a wash, to, you're going out for the day, where are you going? And it covers all aspects of that.
Okay.
And it can help you get, so people in a bit harder lifestyles of us that can't walk, it gives them access to getting blue badges, so they can then park closer, therefore they don't need to travel as far. was able to get. That's what put me on to getting bigger handled cutlery because
Okay.
the hand tingling. I struggle with at times if I'm grabbing a can of juice, I can crush it in my hand and I can't let it go. So trying to grab little teaspoons, I struggled with really badly. And the ADP site went, what about bigger handled? They're a bit weighted, they're all this sort of stuff. And I went, yeah, okay, ha ha ha. Bought them from, I think it would be Amazon or eBay or something, £12, and they're great. They sit off the desk. They're slightly so you can get your hand under.
So you can get
the rubber handled with metal, the metal knife and all that sort of stuff. But it's all machine washable and all that sort of stuff. But it meant that the days that my hands are struggling to do holding a pen, well, at least I can still eat because I've got the cutlery. The same with it helps with getting rails installed or ramps. They can give you
so the things, if you need support with it, that's the way to pursue to begin with. ADP.
ADP. I would do so. It was PIP.
Oh,
right. So some people would know it as PIP. For Scotland, it's changed from PIP to ADP.
Okay, got you.
But it's one of those. It's a long, like I say, 80 pages worth of document.
Piece of work,
It's a long bit of work, but it's definitely worth it. They can grant you obviously money per month as well to go towards all these things. But it means, so for me, it sits on an account and just gathers. But the day that I may need a ramp put in, I can just get it done.
You've already completed the information and then it's in the updates. That's good.
And they do it 3 years yearly. Okay. So every 3 years they check in and go, right, what's the symptoms? Are you still the same? Are you worse? Are you
driving license? You'll probably be the same. Every 3 years I've got to get that checked. I did find out, and I've not done it yet, but I think I want to is get the disability rail card, so you can get discounted rail travel, which I think you need to get some sort of validation from your doctor or from the MS nurse perhaps when you apply through the rail, ScotRail or whoever it is. But that can obviously, if you do travel by train anywhere, you get discount tickets.
But that's where, like I say, the ADP does it on a point system.
Right.
So out of 12 points, you've got to hit the 12 points to meet the basic.
Okay.
If you're above that, it's whatever amount of points. So obviously I filled out the whole thing because I just got told, fill it out best you can. Yeah. You go with your worst day, not your best day, because that's what they want to know.
Yeah.
So they then phoned me to verify, look, you've said on your worst day, you obviously lost limb function. How are you now? Oh, I can walk certain distances, blah. So with the mobility side, they went, well, you don't hit the mark of the 12, but you're actually hitting the mark of like 8.
Okay.
And I was like, right, okay. And they goes, but in 3 years, they goes, you start hitting that 12. We need to know.
Got the history.
They've got the tracks. They've got it all. If anything changes, or like if it's before the 3 years, you just phone us up. We'll go through it. I had a summary. I got my GP to make a summary of everything that I'd been through, all the appointments, a lot. Yeah. So that backed up, so they can actually contact your GP to say, look, how much of this is. It's not just you fill it in and hope for the best.
I hope you don't get anywhere near the 12.
No, definitely not. But it was something I would recommend to anyone because it comes with a lot of, even if you don't get it, the book that comes with all the tips of how to make things easier. Right. There's a lot of good info in it that I never even thought of until I read it, and it was like I say, the cutlery, rails for your getting in and out the bath, all that sort of stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, and it was explaining why a rail sits a certain way over the bath, and it was this is angle it that way because it helps you do X, Y,
mobility,
and it was like wow, I never thought okay, I guess stop putting a rail in as a rail, but no, there's reasons behind it all, and it's quite interesting read on that side.
Okay.
Like I say, we're quite lucky we're not to that.
But it's good to know
that stage yet, but
you've got an avenue to look at. Worst case scenario, nobody wants worst case scenario.
No,
but you do want to know that there is a support, whatever stage you're at.
And I didn't know until I went to the local MS group, and it was all them.
Somebody there is shit now.
Okay. It was actually Heather who went, have you applied? Because I worked with her husband at the time. She went, have you applied? I was like, for what? She was like, hey, ADP. And the whole group instantly went, well, we all have applied. And
connections-wise,
I was like, wow.
So, two things there. It's probably frustrating and not a little disappointing that that wasn't part of the pack you got from your MS nurse or the neurologist or the doctor.
No.
They probably signpost it very broadly, and the places they signposted you to probably have that information somewhere.
Yes.
You got to go find it. So that's one thing. The two more points that you've just made me think about is that you've gone to that group, that social group, which has been set up to support people in a very informal environment. If you like a massage, you get a massage, you get a cup of coffee, a biscuit, or what have you, but you get a chat and a blather from people that have got insight, got experience.
And it's technically completely free. You're not charged to go and visit that night or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just it's just a couple of quid in the charity tin. Which you've invested interest in because it's our charity. But the other thing is, we just talked about it 5-10 minutes ago, is once you've got MS, suddenly you know people with MS. The fact that you work with Steve, Heather's husband, Heather's got MS, it's degrees of separation. It's like you're only 2 or 3 people away from somebody with that condition.
Yeah, but what made it funny was I knew, obviously, I'd never asked about her MS because being polite, don't ask type thing. I knew she had it, but didn't know anything else. And it wasn't until I went to the group and we're actually sat across the table from each other. And I was sitting there for a good 5 minutes going, I know you, and why do I know you? And it wasn't until we were talking about work and she went, yeah, you work with my husband. I twigged right there and then. I went, oh, Heather, it's you. I'm so sorry. And she was like, no. She goes, I didn't recognise you to begin with either. And that's when it sprouted out. And she's given us this info. Obviously, folk in the group are, oh, this is all the medications they've been on and how it worked for them. Like, I know there's that Vampira, one of the older gents. I think he's 95, 96. And he was singing, dancing, not at the Exit, the one before, going on about that he made 40 steps that day.
Yeah.
And it was all due to the medication. And you're like, geez, to be able to sing and dance at 95 and still say, I'm making 40 steps. Like,
and the social engagement is really important. Because that community, I think, is so valuable in terms of what it can give you, even if it's just kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Because they understand, no matter what stage they're at, no matter what type, what flavour their MS is.
Yeah.
And I'm not belittling it by describing it in that way, because there's a whole range of
definitely
in the meetings I've been at and that you go to, where there's just the only thing we've got in common is that we've all got MS.
Yeah.
That's where the commonalities ends, because we've all got our own version of it.
Oh, definitely.
But everybody seems to understand that.
It's the same with the group, as we've said as well, is that it's not a focus of MS. It's not you go in and I'm Kris, I've got MS. It's sometimes you're going in, how's your week been? What you've been up to? The general chat you would have with your friends.
It's general chat. It's not about MS.
If you have a question, though,
somebody there can answer it.
I turned around and went, oh, I'm going to start Kempta, which is the non-scientific name for it. And they all went, oh, we've not heard of that. Well, we've heard of it, but no one had been on it. So as soon as I came in, they all, you started it, how did you get on?
So you become the...
And I was then able to do that. But it then means if anyone new came in that did the same thing, oh, I'm about to start Kempta. Straight away, everyone would go, oh, Kris is on it. We'll go and talk. Heather's about to start it. And straight away, she was, what's it like? She goes, the side effects were quite ranging. And she went, how did that affect you? And I explained it to her. I goes, now obviously I get little to no side effects. And she was quite happy about that, because they explained it to her that, oh, you'll get all these side effects. It's like, yep, you can do, but not all of them. And she was quite happy to ask me all the questions. And I think it's great that way, that you can go from that to, oh, yeah, doing it the weekend.
Absolutely.
What are you up to? Rather than, oh, we're going to this meeting for 2 hours and it's going to be heavy on this illness that we've all got.
There's no expectations on anybody. There's no prejudice on anybody. There's no doubting anybody.
No, not at all.
Everybody's there. It's a completely level, free, safe space.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's
and it's not just for the people that have it. Your partners can come, friends can come along. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not got to be, oh, I have it,
so
I
big
can
shout
go.
out for the Perth and Kinross MS Society.
Oh, yes, definitely.
You'll find them on Facebook and other social platforms, I'm sure. That's been really good. Thank you. I've got one other request
Okay.
And I think I mentioned this the other day. Music.
Mm-hmm.
I like music. You came in and I was playing music. But I want to create a little playlist for this as well, just to kind of
Okay.
put together and share with people. And I wonder if there's a song that comes to mind.
Well, funnily enough, when we were talking about it, with loads of songs ran through my head because I like a lot of different music, but I was straight away went to my favourite band, Linkin Park,
Oh, cool.
Battle Symphony.
Battle Symphony. I've not heard that.
It's one of their later ones.
I'll dig it out.
But yeah,
I don't think I've
I
heard
saw them
that.
live
Okay.
down at the O2 Arena a couple of years back.
That'd have been some gig in
And
there.
oh yeah, it was brilliant. Me and so I've got two older brothers, but me and my oldest brother went down and saw them, and it was just wicked. But no, I've got a lot of, like I say, I like all versions of music. I'll quite happily listen to anything at any time. But no, I've got to go with the favourite band, and yeah,
That's
Battle
superb.
Sympathy is one of those ones that's got a bit of a beat, but it's also got a bit of meaning behind it.
Okay.
For me, anyway.
I'll read the lyrics and I'll listen to it as well. That'll definitely be on the playlist. Nice one. Chris, that's been magic. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.